Hi and welcome to the sewing studio. This video is all about the Bernette B77 sewing machine. I'm going to take you through the machine. So I'm going to talk you through all its features and functions, show you everything that comes in the box, show you how to thread the machine, we'll do some sewing, I'll show you its capabilities and how easy it is to use, and then we'll talk a bit about warranty and support. So we've split all of those into chapters. So if there's a particular section you want to see, feel free to head straight to there. And don't forget, if you like what you're seeing, subscribe to our channel. So the Bernette B77 is slightly larger than standard size sewing machines. You get 9 inches of space to the right of the needle. Now it comes with quite a lot of different stitch options, 500 in total. And within those stitches, you'll find 17 different styles of buttonholes, and those are nice, easy one-step buttonholes, as well as all your standard utility stitches, stretch stitches, quilting ones, what else is in there? Decorative, there's fonts as well, both uppercase and lowercase, more than enough for what you would need, I would imagine. And those are all easily selected in this touch screen here. Now within this touchscreen as well, there's also a really handy feature called a creative consultant. It's just in here, it's like a little dressmaker symbol, and it has different types of fabrics there. And you can press on those depending on the fabric that you're using, and it will tell you how best to set up the machine. So what needle to use, everything like that. Now, because the machine has automatic features like automatic tension and automatic presser foot pressure, when you select the right type of fabric for what you're using, it will automatically set all those things up for you so that you get the best results. Now, if you want to see more on that, stay tuned because I will talk a little bit more detail about it in the sewing section. Now, other nice automatic features that this machine has is an auto scissor cut. You've got your scissor button down here. You also have a handy manual cutter on the side there. Now, being computerized, you have the option of how you operate the machine. So it comes with a foot pedal, but it also has a start-stop button here. And for that reason, it comes with speed control. So you can limit your speed when you're trying to do something quite intricate, but you can also go at those high speeds up to 1,000 stitches per minute when you're trying to do long lengths, making some curtains or something like that. You've also got your reverse button to secure your stitches and a locking stitch button here, which is a slightly different way of securing those. And again, I will show you further down the line. Now you've got an automatic built-in needle threader to help you thread the eye of the needle. And the bobbin is a nice and easy drop-in system. And then you lay the thread in a piece here and you don't need to drop the bobbin thread. You can simply start sewing. In the back here, you'll find a built-in dual feed foot that disappears up out the way when you're not using it and then engages when you are using it. And that has some little grooves in the bottom that interlock with the feed dogs so that you can sew tricky fabrics like stretch fabric and layers and for quilts and things without everything shifting and moving around. Now the feed dogs can be dropped. It's just a lever on the front here that you slide along, and that's to do any kind of darning or free motion work. And now that I've popped this off, you'll see we've got a free arm here to sew any cuffs or hems. And if I pop this back on, in the front here, you've got a nice bit of storage for the feet and accessories that come with the machine. Now, I've just reminded myself talking about accessories. This machine also has knee lift technology. So it comes with a knee lift that you can plug in the front there so that you can raise and lower your presser foot with your knee should you wish to. So what else comes in the box? Obviously, the machine will be in the box, and then the feet that come with it will be this standard one here. Now, there's 2 different kind of types of feet for this machine. There's ones that fit the dual feed in the back, so it has like a little groove in there that fits that in. So this standard zigzag fit will absolutely fit the dual feed. And also compatible with the dual feed is a zip foot, an overlock foot, and an adjustable blind stitch. And then you have an embroidery foot for sewing the decorative stitches and the fonts, one for sewing on buttons, a free motion foot, and your one-step buttonhole, and then this nice little range of accessories. And then you have your power lead, your foot control. Now this foot control also has what's called a kickback function, so you can put your heel on there, and what that does is it raises the presser foot and the needle for you when you press it once, and if you push it back again, then it will lower it back down for you, so you can do everything with your foot there. You've also got the knee lift, and then this is a quick start guide, and there is a full instruction manual available with the QR code on the back of there. Lastly, it comes with a nice handy extension table that just pops on the free arm once you've taken the accessory tray off, and then a nice wipeable fabric cover. It's got a big pocket in the back there, so you can keep all these accessories in there. Now this machine weighs just under 10 kilos, so it's not the lightest, but it is doable to take it around, you know, transport it. And this helps to keep it protected, but also keep the dust off when you're storing it away. So next, I'm going to show you how to thread the machine, how to operate the touch screen and choose all your stitches and everything. We'll do some sewing and I'll show you its capabilities. To wind a bobbin, you want to pop your spool on the spool pin there, and then these are spool caps. You get a couple of different sizes depending on the size of reel that you're using, and you just want to pop that on. Don't clamp it tight because this does still need to spin. And then on the top here there are arrows, so everything for the dotted line is to wind your bobbin, and then everything for the solid line is for your needle. So we're going to follow this dotted line, so we go in under that guide there, and then you're coming around under this tension thing here. Now that's quite loose, and if you do it like that, it's not necessarily in under those two discs. So what you want to do is grab both ends of the thread and just give it a good tug, and then you know it's under there, so your bobbin's then winding at the correct tension. Find the end of your thread and post it up through the hole in the bobbin, like so. Pop the bobbin on the bobbin pin, and then you just want to push that over to the right, and you'll see now the screen is saying it's in bobbin mode basically. You want the speed on the fastest, so if you're using the foot pedal, put your foot flat to the floor. I'm using the start stop button, which I'm going to press at the moment, but you need to make sure it's up to full speed so that it winds at the correct tension. And then you can just make a start. I usually stop about there and just snip off that thread and then carry on. And it will just slow down for you to stop. Push that back to the left, take your full bobbin off, and in here there's a nice handy cutter that you can just snip that off. So I'm going to put that to one side and we'll load that in a moment. So for the needle, you don't need to use that bit, but there is a solid line coming that way. So you want to keep the thread in there, and then you're going under this piece at the back, following this arrow down at the front, around, and then you want to go back to the right and forward to the left and make sure it pops in the front of that take-up lever. Back down into the metal guide there, and then the last guide at the top of the needle, which can always be quite fiddly, but it's very important, so in that one. Now for the needle threader, it's this device here. It'll automatically lower the presser foot for you, and it also gives you a guide here of how to thread it. What we need to do is make sure the needle's in the right position, and you can do that by popping the needle down and back up again, and then the needle's in the right position. Just make sure when you're changing out the needle, you're fully inserting it as far as it will go. So again, come down with the needle threader, and then you just want to lay the thread under that little plastic tooth and in under those two there, and then just push that back up, let go of the thread, and you can see it's drawn the loop at the back there for you. So you can just simply, she says, pull that through. Pop the presser foot up, pop the thread underneath. Got quite a lot, so I'm just going to snip that off. And then for the bobbin, just slide that to the right and that'll lift the cover off. Now there is a right and a wrong way to load your bobbin in with a top loader, and you want to get it with the tail of thread to the left, so a P for perfect. So you just drop that in. Again, you want to be threading with the thread under some tension, so just pop your finger on the bobbin to stop it spinning, and then you're going under this here where it's got the arrow there. So just go in underneath and go right the way around, and then I'm following this last arrow here into there, and then in there is a little blade where you can cut that off, pop the cover back on, and you're ready to sew. There's no need to draw up the bobbin thread. When you switch the machine on, you will always be presented with this same screen here, which is basically the machine ready to sew a standard straight stitch, because let's face it, that's what we use most of the time. So things that you can access on this screen. So here are all your stitch options, and they're separated out into folders. So you've got your utility stitches here that's highlighted that we're in. You can expand this so you get it bigger on screen, and you can scroll through the pages with these left and right arrows, and then you can minimize that again should you wish to. To go down through the folders, you're just simply touching them. Some have more stitches than is capable in that screen, if that makes sense. So they're separated out into individual folders. So you've got satin stitches, cross stitches, decorative, blind hem type ones, and then more pictorial. And you just click on one of those and it gives you the options in there. Likewise with the fonts, you've got different types of fonts, all your different buttonholes, and then your quilting options. And then this one here is where you can save and retrieve favourite stitches. So for instance, if you like to do a blanket stitch or something like that, but you want it a different width and length from what is default, rather than having to remember those details, you can save the stitch so that you can use it again another time. So I'll just go back to the standard straight stitch. And then here is giving you a representation of that stitch. So this is what it's going to look like when it sews out. This is showing you the stitch length, so it's 2.5 millimeters, and the width is 0 because obviously it's a straight stitch. If you press the I, you've got a few more different options of your stitches, and that's where you'll find a mirror stitch. So not relevant to the straight stitch, but when we come on to the decorative ones, we can then adjust those. Here is where you can program your needle to either stay down when you stop sewing or for it to come up. So at the moment you've got a line there with the needle above, so it will come up. If you simply press that, the needle drops down, so it will stay down when you finish sewing, which is how I'm going to leave it. This is your tension. So as I say, it does have automatic tension, but if you're sewing something of the extremes or something's not quite right, you can manually adjust that, either with the plus and minus, or you can quite simply turn these dials to get where you need to be. If you ever want to go back to where was default, you can just press clear and it will go back there. In the needle symbol here is where you can select if you're using a twin needle, and that's a safety feature, so it will stop you selecting some of the wider stitches that might cause a needle to break. And if you purchase the optional straight stitch plate, this is where you can select it here. Again, it's a safety feature, so the machine will know not to choose a zigzag. This gives you a representation of all the feet that come with the machine, and you can see we've got DA on the machine that's got the tick on it. Again, it has automatic presser foot pressure. You can manually adjust that should you wish to. And this is telling us which stitch plate we have on the machine, which is the 7mm. So that briefly explains this screen, apart from those which I'll come on to at the moment. But at the moment we're on the home screen, which is default. So we're on the standard straight stitch. So I've got some bits of cotton here. And let me show you. Let's go around that way. So I'm going to take it off the top speed a moment. We were on there from winding a bobbin. I'm going to drop the presser foot and I'm going to pop my needle in. And as I say, I'm using the start-stop button, so I'm simply going to make a start. long press. And then to reverse, you just keep your finger on the button for as far back as you want to go, and then come forward again. So that's a slow speed, which is really quite manageable, up to midway. If I stop there a moment and then come back around and then start again, we'll go up to high. And as I say, that is 1,000 stitches per minute up at the top speed. I'm probably not going to do anything else at that speed because I've only got a very small piece of fabric. So I'm going to press my scissors. That lifts the needle out. A little cutter comes out, trims the threads, raises the presser foot, and you can quite simply take your work out. And there's your nice, neat, standard straight stitch. That's on the top and that's underneath. So the second option way that you have of securing your stitches is the locking stitch. So if you press that button first, you'll see that the little knot symbol appears on the screen. And that means it's going to do a couple of stitches on the spot before it starts sewing. Now in the settings over here, you can program it that every time you sew, it does that securing stitch if you want to. So I'm just going to drop the presser foot to line my fabric up. Go down and make a start. Now when it comes to being able to keep your hands on the work and pivoting, I've now got the knee lift plugged in, so I can very simply just touch the knee lift with my knee. It's going to raise slightly. If I move my knee back the other way, it's going to go down and I can start sewing again. And when you come to the end and you want to do a locking stitch, you press that one again and you can see the locking stitch symbol, and then it's just going to do one set of those stitches and stop. So I'm going to cut my threads, take the work out, and you can see how that gives a much neater finish, start even, and finish to your piece of work rather than the bulk of reversing sometimes. And that's really good when you're doing something quite decorative or top stitching or something like that. Okay, I'm going to take the knee lift out because I'm not going to use that again. I just wanted to demonstrate that to you. When it comes to altering the width and the length then, let's go to a zigzag stitch. So I've just basically selected that stitch. Now what's really good with this machine is as you're altering the width and the length, it's giving you a representation on the screen of what the stitch is going to look like. So this is a standard zigzag stitch, and if I start to alter the width, you'll see on screen as it catches up, it's starting to go wider. So 7mm is the widest that we can go with this machine. And then if we're going to reduce the length down to create like a satin stitch effect, you can see it's going to do a wide zigzag quite close together. So it's really good if you're ever not sure when you're adjusting it what it's going to look like. Rather than wasting thread and fabric, you have a representation on the screen. If you want to get back to what the original stitch was, you just press clear and it's there for you. So next, let's take a look at the one-step buttonhole. So we'll grab the foot, which is in here. And what you're going to do is slide the back of this foot out, take your button and pop it in there and then clamp that down. And what that does is it sets a distance here, which tells the machine what size the buttonhole needs to be, plus a couple of millimeters so the button can get in and out the hole nice and easily. Now these feet snap on and off, so you just want to pull that down. Little bit of wiggle room there. And then you're lining up this bar with the front of the foot there. And you just want to drop the presser foot down and then you can hear it snap on there. And just raise that up. And then to make things neat, you want to get this thread underneath the presser foot. And the easiest way to do that is to pop a bit of fabric in, drop your needle down, drop it back up again, and then gently pull on the fabric. And that's brought it in underneath. So next we'll choose the buttonhole. So you've got the folder here for all your buttonhole stitches. I'll just expand that so you can see. And as I say, there's lots of different types of buttonhole depending on the fabric that you're working on. There's also some eyelet stitches in here as well. I'm going to continue with the cotton. So I'm going to press that one, and that's just the standard buttonhole. Now again, it's set to a default width and length. You can adjust the stitch length if you want the buttonhole to be a bit denser, but to be honest, on this machine it's not too bad as it is, which I'll show you. And then the last thing you want to do before you start sewing is bring down the buttonhole sensor, which is just behind the needle threader there, and you're just putting it, make sure it's all the way down and then behind that plastic piece there, because then what's going to happen is as it's sewing, it's then going to hit the piece at the back, know when to stop, sew the bar tacks and come forward again. I'll show you what I mean. So it's a good idea to put a little mark on your fabric where you want the buttonhole to sew, and then you can line that mark up with the viewing window in the front there. So I'm going to drop that presser foot down. Always keep the speed about midway. It's quite a dense stitch, so it tends to come out a bit nicer. And obviously, don't forget, if you're using quite a fine fabric or something quite delicate, to put a bit of stabilizer underneath your fabric to help with puckering of fabric and things. So I'm just going to make a start. And then it's just done a few stitches on the, I'll try that again, shall I? It's done a few stitches on the spot there to secure the threads. There's nothing else that you need to do. You can just press your scissors to cut the thread, lift everything out for you. And look how lovely that buttonhole is. See what I was saying, how with the default setting, it is really nice and dense. And that's the underneath. So let's move on to the decorative option. So I'm going to pop the buttonhole sensor away and just snap off the buttonhole foot. And I'm going to pop on the embroidery foot, as they call it. Now, the difference being that this has a groove underneath. And what that does is it helps the density of the fonts and the decorative stitches to feed through so nothing gets stuck. So again, I'm just going to line that up, drop the presser foot down, and then snap it on. Sorry, my hands were probably in the way there, but you just lift it up at the back to snap that on. Just going to lift it up and pop the thread underneath. Okay, so let's go into the decorative stitches, and let's do something fun. Let's do one of the pictorial ones. Let's sew out some stars. It's nearing Christmas right now, so we'll do some stars. So you can see there's a representation here of what the stitch is going to look like. Actually, let's not do stars because I'm going to show you the mirror stitch, and they're kind of symmetrical, so it's a bit odd to see on there. Let me change that to, let's just do some hearts on there. Okay, so then you've got your hearts here. So I'm just going to pop my fabric in, drop the press foot down and make a start. And there you have your nice neat row of hearts. That's the top and that's underneath. Now I'm going to mirror the stitch. So if we go into the eye here for information, you can then flip it around. So I can do that, and it's going to sew it out in the opposite direction. This little eye symbol will always be in yellow when you've got something selected on this screen. It will stay there, excuse me, until you deselect it basically. So let's sew these ones out. There you go, and you can see how they've sewn the hearts in the opposite direction. And that's quite useful if you want to do a square with them and have them facing opposite. If you're working on a big project and you can't fit the bulk of what you're working on here, but you want the stitch to stay in the same direction, you can turn the stitch rather than having to turn your work. That takes a little bit of figuring out, but I know what I mean. So while I've got this foot on, we'll take a look at the fonts. So I'll go, let's just deselect the mirror stitch a minute because I don't need that anymore. And we'll go down into the fonts. Let's go back one a minute. So as I say, there's 3 different types you can do. Sort of like a standard block, there's an outline, and then there's kind of a Gothic italic style. I'm just going to do a standard block. Now, because we want to program a sequence of stitches, let's get to the letters a minute. If I was to hit B, it's just going to sew out a row of Bs, which is not what I want. So I need to hit the plus symbol, and then this is ready for a sequence of stitches. Now, for some reason, whoever was playing on this before, there is still a sequence in here that hasn't been cancelled. So I'm just going to select each of those, and then in the eye, you can find the delete button and delete those out. So now we're back to the beginning. So I'm going to choose a capital B. I'm going to write the word Bernette because that's as far as my imagination will go today. E. If you carry on, again, you can make it bigger and then it makes more sense. So it comes along the top here, a bit like you would type it in on a computer. So R, N, E, T, T, and then E. So you can check your spelling there. I'll just scroll through the other pages so you can see what else is here. So as I say, you've got all your kind of accents in there that you need, symbols and things. You could write a whole poem if you really wanted to. So I'm just going to put that down. So we've got the word Bernette here. You can check and go up through and go back to the beginning with that one so that it's going to sew the whole word. I'll get my words out in a minute. You can go down and go up. So I'll pop my fabric underneath and go for it. Lovely. And there's the word Bernette. Now each letter is secured individually, so if you wanted to take out these little joining stitches you can, and nothing's going to unravel. And just like what I was saying with the buttonhole earlier, on something like this fabric or even lighter, a piece of stabilizer underneath will help to stop that kind of small amount of puckering on the fabric and help the stitches to sit on top. So let's explore some different types of fabric now. So I'm going to delete these out a minute because we don't want to do that anymore. And come out of the pattern sequence mode, which is the plus sign. Incidentally, you can also program in decorative stitches with the fonts. So you could do, a couple of the hearts and then someone's name and then finish with a couple of hearts. And of course you can save that to the memory if you want to, if it's something you're going to want to stitch out again. So different fabrics. I have some jersey here that I'm going to sew with. So the first thing I'm going to do is take off this foot because I don't need that one anymore, because we're just going to do standard stitches, and snap this one on. There it goes. And I'm going to change the needle. I'm just going to lower the press of the foot a little way. Change the needle for a jersey needle. And that has a slight ball point for handling the stretch in the fabric and helps with skip stitches and things like that. That's quite tight, fresh from the factory, but a couple of turns and it's loose. And these are just a universal fit needle with the flat piece at the back. And as I was saying earlier, for the needle threader, make sure it is all the way up as far as it goes. There is a little stopper there and you can't go any further. Tighten the screw up by hand, and I tend to just do a last quarter turn with the screwdriver just to make sure it's in there firmly. And then again for the needle threader, come down, lay your thread in, pull it up, and you've got your loop at the back there. And you can pop the thread underneath the foot. So jersey fabric, so the sewing consultant. So this is the dressmaker symbol here. And these are different types of fabrics. So you've got woven, you've got denim, you've got toweling, all sorts of different stuff. We're going to want to use a stretch fabric, and we want to do a straight stitch on that stretch fabric. But you also have the choice of overlock stitch, doing a blind hem, a buttonhole, all sorts of different things. And if you click on it, it's going to tell you to use stitch number 11, what size needle to use, a size 70, which is in there. Polyester thread is mostly better, and foot DA, which is the one that I've got on there, which is the standard foot that accepts the dual feed in the back. So I'm just going to hit OK, and this has already set this up to the lightning stitch for me. The tension has automatically adjusted itself. It was on 3.25 when I was sewing on the cotton, and now it's on 4. The presser foot pressure has stayed the same because there's no need for that to change. So I'm just going to grab my fabric. Now this is an old t-shirt material that's got quite a bit of rib to it. So I'm going to engage the presser foot. So that just comes down the dual feed foot, sorry. So it's raised the presser foot. That's what I meant to say. Engage that in there. Pop your fabric underneath, and that helps to deal with not overstretching the fabric when we're feeding it through the machine. So let's go. And as you can see, it's done a really nice job of that. The fabric is still stretchy with the stitch, and the seam is nice and secure. So let's look at the thicker side of fabrics. So I've got some denim. So I'm going to swap out this jersey needle because my denim hasn't got any stretch in it at all. So I'll take the jersey one out, and I'm going to pop a jeans needle in. Again, make sure it's fully inserted. Bring the needle threader down, in, around, push back up, draw your loop, you get the idea. So here, this is a 10-ounce denim that we sell in the shop, and I've got two pieces there. So again, I'm going to go back to my sewing consultant, and I'm going to choose the denim. I want to do a straight stitch, so it's telling me it wants stitch 1, which is the straight stitch. To use a 90 needle J, which is a jeans foot, which is what's on there, sorry. It's saying to use a coordinate thread, but polyester is fine. And then foot DA, which again is what I've got on the machine with the dual feed engaged. So I'm going to hit OK. And you can see the tension has gone back to 3.75 and the pressure has stayed the same, but it's adjusted all of that for you, so you don't need to be playing about with any of that. The only time you would really want to adjust the tension is if you increase the thickness of your thread. So if you think about the fact that in here there's 2 discs that the thread goes through, at the moment I'm using a standard 50 weight thread, and that sits in those discs nicely. If you then increase the size of your thread, it's going to fill that gap more, and then it's going to be tighter, so your stitches will look tight. So you can just go into there and just reduce the top tension slightly. You'll soon know it's always a good idea when changing things around like that to just do a couple of test pieces first. But if you're using the sewing consultant for choosing your type of fabric, it will automatically do that for you. So let's pop the fabric underneath and sew through 2 layers. Let's just secure those. And that's gone through that with no problem at all. It's nice and neat on the underside as well. And the seam is nice and secure. So let's double that over now and go through 4 layers. Let's move my threads out the way. So drop that in. Again, still no problem. Everything's nice and neat, nothing's skipped. And the seam is still really secure. So let's double it over once more. So we'll go through 8 layers. So I'm going to pop that in underneath. And this lifts nice and high, so you can get bulky items in under there. It's very handy. And there you go, it's gone through that lovely too. Nothing skipped. And again, the seam is really secure, that's not going anywhere. So lastly, let's take a look at quilting and some free motion quilting. So I'm going to take this jeans needle out and pop the standard one back in. Oops. Flat at the back, remember, up as far as you can go. Twizzle it around for the needle threader. Click in, thread in, pull back. Missed. I'll try that again. Let's just make sure the needle's in the right position. There we go. There it is. Draw that through. Okay, let's pop the presser foot up and put the thread underneath. So for standard quilting, I'm going to engage the jewel feed foot, she says, in there. And that's just going to sit there, and its little teeth are going to go up and down at the same time as the feed dogs, so that it's consistently feeding the top layer along with the bottom layer, so nothing's moving and shifting. So I've got a quilt sandwich here. Now obviously we're still on the jeans setting on the screen. So I'm going to go into the quilting stitches, and there's ones in here for quilting and piecing. You'll find your blanket stitches in here as well. So I'm just going to go to a narrower straight stitch and then make a start. There you go. You can see how it's nice and consistent. I haven't gone very straight, have I? But the stitch is nice and consistent, both on the top and underneath. And nothing is shifted in the layers when I was going then. Now, because you're using this standard foot, you've got the full 7mm of width. So you can do some of the more decorative stitches and quilting stitch options. So this stippling stitch is quite popular. So let's select that. There you go, and that's a nice easy way to get some stippling on your quilt. That's on the top and that's underneath. With free motion, we need to change the foot completely. So it's not a snap-on one. I'm just going to disengage the dual feed, and you want to unscrew the screw, whoops, on the whole ankle and slip that out. And then with this foot, you want to get this pin sat above the needle bar there, and then you just push it up onto the foot shank there and screw it on. I'm going to do a last quarter turn to make sure it's tight. And then you want to drop the feed dogs. So as I was saying, you pop that off and there's a lever in under here. So you just want to slide that to the left and you can see the feed dogs are now down. Just pop that on. I'm going to go back to a straight stitch because we just want the needle to go up and down in one centre position. You could do it to the left or the right if you wanted to, but I prefer the centre. So I'm going to draw up my bobbin thread. So let's drop the presser foot, and then I'm going to drop the needle down, back up again, give a tug on this thread, and up comes the bobbin thread for us to pull through. So I'm going to drop my needle in again. I'm going to slow the speed down a bit because that's too fast for me in free motion. And then make a start. And there you go. There's a nice little bit of feathering there. It's nice and consistent, nice and neat, and the same underneath. No eyelashing or anything there. So with regards to warranty, this machine comes with 2 years, and in the box, you'll find this card that details that to you. And there's also a registration form in there for you to send off, or you can do it online to get your machine registered with Bernette. So I hope now we're coming to the end of this video, I've been able to demonstrate to you the capabilities of the Bernette B77 and just how easy it is to use and the nice results that it gives you. If you've decided that this is the machine for you, great, head on over to our website. Grab yours now, delivery is fast and it's free. But if you're still not sure, just please get in touch. We're here for you, whatever you need. And that goes for support with your new machine as well. Any questions you might have or any difficulties that you're having, just get in touch. We are more than happy to help.